Podcast, we will be talking about race in sport. Is racism in sport a problem? This is a question a lot of people ask. Many influential people experience the worst of the worst when it comes to racism, and they persevere. One of the most influential athletes that experienced racism in sport was Jackie Robinson. One of Robinson's first games with the Brooklyn Dodgers was on April 15, 1947. This was a game that made history because Jackie was the first African American person to play for a Major League Baseball team in the 20th century. During his baseball life, a lot of people would make racist comments including his teammates. When Robinson was in the army, he had to do a boot camp, and during the camp, he was arrested. Started in the Negro Leagues, and he was then scouted by Branch Rickey. He persevered through racism and became an amazing role model for many people and changed a lot of people's lives. As well as Jackie Robinson, many Indigenous peoples also have experienced racism. They experience it in everyday life and while playing sports. Jordan Tutu was the NHL's first Inuk player. While Jordan was living with a Belay family in different communities, he experienced some racism. One quote from the novel All the Way My Life on Ice by Stephen Brunt is the white category right off the bat. In Tutu's hometown, he never experienced racism, so moving to a new community where there were not very many Indigenous people was strange to him. There have been so many other Indigenous people that have experienced racism in hockey, such as Derek and George Niakapo. Many referees would call penalties on the two children for no reason at all. Derek switched sports and started playing football because he did not feel welcome in the hockey community. George played for the midget AA and then tried out for the Ligue de Hockey Junior AAA Quebec team. The Bantam AAA team experienced racism and people used slurs and taunted them in the tournament in Quebec. Hockey Quebec said that they would change their code of ethics for the referees and coaches so that Indigenous players could feel like they belong there. All the coaches, officials, and administrators and players had to sign the code of ethics, and they are expected to follow the code. The organization collaborated with Equijustice, which is a citizen restorative justice and mediation network, to publish a guide that was meant to help organize and deal with parents. Racism in soccer has also been a problem. One player from an Italian soccer team named Lukaku has been overwhelmed by racist comments. One game in Parma, Italy was suspended due to the crowd shouting racist slurs. A TV commentator was fired because he said the only way to stop him is maybe give him 10 bananas, which is about Lukaku. Some professional soccer players in Holland protested against racism by standing for a minute of the game for the games that they had that week. One of the top leagues in Italy made a statement about the protest and said, "It is intended to make fans aware that football belongs to everyone, regardless of the cultural background, religion, or sex preference." This was said by Ben Church. Now we come back to the question, is racism a problem in sport? There are so many people that experience racism, which I've already talked about. People such as Jackie Robinson is one example of how a person can be treated way differently just because of their race. This also shows that racism in sport is a huge problem that has to be fixed because it affects so many people and makes the players feel like they are unwelcomed on a team. For example, like Derek Niakapu, he changed sport because he never felt welcome enough on the team. And the fact that the soccer players had to stand up against racism because their teammate was hurt shows that their whole team is really supportive for the protests and they are against racism. One day this problem will be fixed with more and more protests. Thank you for tuning in, and next week on this podcast we will be talking about performing enhancing drugs and the effect on human health. Thank you. Hope you have a nice night.